Hello all, welcome to another lesson of the Rook versus Pawns and Games. This lesson we will start to analyze positions where the Rook fights against 3 pawns. Let's start by a famous one. This is very famous. It shows up in almost endgames books that cover these positions. And so we have 3 isolated pawns over here. All the pawns are already in the 7th rank, which make them really dangerous, but yet, White still has a chance to win this game, but needs to know how to do it, the right, proper strategy. So, White to move. If you want, pause the video and try to find the first move for yourself. And the best move is going King F2. Uh, and this is not so intuitive if you are not paying attention, because what we are expecting is probably I can take the pawn because the king will move to support the pawns, but I will have time to avoid the king to reach. And if the king then goes to one side, I take one pawn and then I will approach and take the other. And so I will be winning. But there's a small detail that white misses if it takes the pawn because, okay, we reach this position, but now a simple trick that I think it's interesting for you to remember. Instead of approaching the pawns, black has this simple resource of promoting the pawn to a queen, then forcing white to take. Let's see, for example, if it takes with the rook, and then we are able to approach our king without white being able to approach its own king. And now, of course, this will be a simple draw when we reach king versus king. So the other possibility here is to take with the king, and of course the king approaches again, and now white is not able to approach it anymore. So when facing this position, we are basically not able to progress anymore. Let's see, for example, if we move the rook to try to give more space for black, but how can we approach the pawn? If we try something stupid like going with the rook to the other side, then black simply promotes and we lose the game. So we can't play them. Also, if we give a check, this just allows black again to win because after we won't be able to avoid the promotion of the pawn for a queen. So the rook needs to come back, and basically black repeats the position, and we have a draw. So coming back to the start, we already know that first we need to avoid the king to approach a position where it can poses real questions to white win. And now, of course, black approaches, and I can take the pawn. So we have kind of an opposition. Black goes to one side. Of course, if I try to keep this position, and now this is the harder part of the study. If I go here, well, black simply goes back because if now I take the pawn, then this allows black to approach the king again. Notice how far is my king. I don't have time to avoid what will happen. And now whatever I do, let's go for example here, then we get this simple promotion and forcing my sacrifice. So here basically I can't progress. So the trick is go with the rook to the other side, so forcing black to move again. If black approaches the pawn, I simply can play the tricky move that we are going to see on the main line. So let's not start by that. So first we move here, and then black goes here. And now again, what can I do? If I take the pawn, the other promotes, so I can do that. If I go to one side, then I will just repeat the positions. How can we progress? And here is the tricky move. This move is what allows white to win because we are threatening to give a discovery check that will be a wall from black to come back to the same situation. So now if black goes to one side, let's see, for example, if black goes here, then I simply can control the approaching the king, but now the king can't come back. And the pawns are lost, basically, because I will take one, and then, for example, the rook will take the other one. So here, let's come back a bit, because I told you what happened if the queen approach. So here, basically, the trick is doing the same. So we basically play the same position, forcing black to play again. Notice that if black moves 1 pawn, I will take it. So probably black will try to approach the king to try to force a promotion, but now I am really controlling. And black to move, it is forced to play something like, for example, here, and then I can control everything. Now if black needs to take again the threat of promoting, I simply take with check, and then I can come back and control the promotion of the other pawn. So it's the same trick. So let's go here back a bit. So we take the pawn, the king tries to approach, and we go to the other side. The king comes back. I play the key move for solving this solution, and now black plays this interesting move. And here again we need to pay attention, because if we try to approach the pawn, this is already also winning. But what happened is the king goes to the other side, forcing me to come back. So again, no progression. And that's why, instead of going to the side, I keep the threat of the discovered check and forcing black to move again. Of course, if black goes there, then I simply can attack the pawn. Let's see, for example, here, because black won't reach on time to support the other. So, for example, I go here, and if black tries to approach, I simply control 1 pawn and then get the other and win the game. Okay, hope you have enjoyed this one, and let's move on to a different situation. Here, the pawns are connected. I am controlling the promotions, looks like, and I am threatening 1 pawn, and black king is far away. So here I say white is winning, but needs to know what to do. Because, for example, if I do something stupid like taking here, well, black simply promotes to a queen and will win the game if it knows the master class of the queen versus rook endgame. Again, you can review it if you don't want. If you're not sure if you will win a queen versus rook. I hope you are sure. And if it takes with the rook, same situation, because black simply can promote one, forcing the king to take it, and then promote the other. And again, we have the same queen versus rook end game, that it's a win for the queen. So basically, here we can't progress just by taking the pawn. But because of the particular position of black king, we can use a simple strategy that it's very important. We give a check, the king tries to approach, and now the key strategy is to control the promotion squares of the pawn. So let's see how this can move forward. The king approaches. Now I can take the pawn because the two other pawns are being controlled on the promotion square. The king tries to support 1 pawn, but then I can take the pawn and it's still a win, but I'll show you in a different way. We just keep our nerves calm, and we will have a simple win, because basically black can't force it. So when we are here, just remember we need our rook in the first rank, so to avoid the pawns, and only after we can control taking the pawns. Because this is not as clear as water, because let's just move the king to one side, and now the things are not possible to force the win, because the same strategy, I will try to go to the other side. No need to see what happens if I take the pawns. We already saw that. Because when the rook reaches the control of the promotions, the black king also is able to protect the weak pawn, and white can progress again. Because let's see, for example, if I move here, well, the king just stays protecting his pawn. If I give a check to force separation, I will now need to go back, because otherwise we will see that trick in promoting one, forcing the king to take and then promote the other with check. So we need to come back, and when we come back, the king keeps up defending his own pawn. So just one simple uh, tempo allows black to reach and protect his pawn, and it's not possible for white to get the strategy of controlling the promotions and winning the game. So this is a draw. Okay, final position, a bit different. We now have the pawns one square up. The king is already protecting the key weak pawn, but we have more tempos to control the promotion. So this makes all the difference. And here the technique is just go after this pawn now. So we can simply attack it directly with rook e8. Now black to move, as you can see, uh, it has to abandon one of the pawns. So the best move here is to go trying to support one of them to promote. But now, as you can see, I give a check, the king moves. Now I am threatening to take with a check, which forces black to try desperation move of trying to promote the pawn. But I don't take the pawn, I give a check. And if the king goes down, then I will simply fork with a check and then I take the pawn. And if the king goes up, I simply can control the promotion square, and next move I will take the pawn and win the game. So this was another example of fighting against 3 pawns. As we saw before, the more advances the pawns are and the nearest the king is, the harder it will be. Hope you have enjoyed this one, and see you again in a future lesson. Bye bye.